In a city in Italy, a man named Claudio is sitting in his car, reading over a project meeting document. The car is stuck in traffic, and the radio broadcasts alarming news of disturbances erupting across various parts of the Italian capital. The news reports that a group of thugs has launched simultaneous attacks, and the police have yet to respond to the outbreak of violence. Many people have been reported missing. Feeling uneasy, Claudio instructs his driver to turn off the radio. After what seems like an eternity in traffic, the car finally arrives at the office. Claudio steps into the elevator and unexpectedly runs into his ex-girlfriend, Marta. He tries to charm her, reverting to his old habits of flirting. In a bold move, Claudio presses the stop button in the elevator, prolonging their encounter. However, his efforts are futile. Marta remains unmoved and calls herself foolish for once being ensnared by Claudio's old tricks. She recalls their past relationship, how Claudio betrayed her by sleeping with other women, and how she ultimately realized she deserved better. Unfazed by his attempts, Marta exits the elevator, leaving Claudio alone and pained by the reminder of his own faults. Claudio resumes his ride in the elevator, pressing the button to continue. Almost immediately, his phone rings, and he answers to hear his wife's voice, filled with anxiety. She tells him about the chaos that erupted last night, the widespread attacks, and the roads that are now closed. Just as she's detailing the extent of the situation, the elevator suddenly jolts to a stop. Claudio abruptly ends the call to assess his situation. He presses the help button and requests assistance, explaining that he's stuck in the elevator. The voice on the other end tries to reassure him, suggesting it's likely a minor issue with the electrical system. The person then gives Claudio the technician's number, and Claudio dials it immediately. The technician answers and suggests there doesn't seem to be any serious damage, speculating that the problem might be due to a generator failure. But before the technician can provide further assistance, a sudden scream echoes through the phone line, and the call is abruptly cut off. Alarmed, Claudio presses the help button again, demanding to know what happened. Growing increasingly frustrated, he struggles to keep his composure, telling himself that he needs to stay calm if he hopes to get out alive. Determined to escape, Claudio starts to force open the elevator doors, managing to pry them open just enough to peek outside. The atmosphere beyond is eerily quiet, unnervingly still. He calls out for help, but his voice is met with nothing but silence. He tries to widen the doors further, desperate to squeeze through and escape, but his efforts are in vain. Just then, his phone rings again. It's his wife. Her voice is laced with fear as she tells him that someone is trying to break into their house, and they've been unable to reach the police. Claudio tries to calm her, offering reassurances, but the call abruptly cuts off, leaving him even more distressed. In an attempt to understand what's happening, Claudio checks his phone for news about the attacks. Suddenly, a chilling cry for help pierces the silence. It's Marta. She appears in front of the elevator door, falling to the ground, being dragged away by something unseen. In the blink of an eye, a zombie lunges at Claudio, trying to grab him. The creature is distracted by another noise and leaves just as quickly as it appeared. Claudio, now fully gripped by panic, hears the voice on the intercom again. The voice chillingly informs him that everyone has turned into zombies before the connection abruptly cuts off once more. Desperately trying to reach out for help, Claudio is suddenly attacked by Marta, who has now become a zombie. He struggles violently to free himself, grabbing a metal bar to fend her off. After a fierce struggle, he manages to push the zombified Marta out of the elevator, blood splattering everywhere. In a daze, Claudio tears up his meeting papers, using the shreds to cover the bloodstains, his mind racing with fear and disbelief. The eerie silence is shattered by approaching footsteps, and Claudio looks up to see his colleague Sylvia. Claudio, filled with hope, asks Sylvia for help, but the narrow gap in the elevator doors makes it impossible for her to pull him out. As they struggle to find a solution, a zombie suddenly approaches Sylvia. She bravely fends it off with a baton, but not before the creature bites her. Claudio watches in helpless horror as Sylvia succumbs to the infection. Overcome with despair, Claudio calls his wife again, crying out his fears. His wife, trying to remain calm, tells him that everyone in the city has gone mad, and that this must be the apocalypse. But before she can finish, Someone breaks into their house, and her scream is the last thing Claudio hears before the call ends abruptly, sending him spiraling into hysteria. Suddenly, a stranger carrying a flashlight approaches the elevator, asking Claudio what's happening. Claudio, unsure of anything anymore, warns the person to hide. The stranger tries to enter the elevator but is chased away by zombies. One of the zombies attempts to grab Claudio, and as the lights go out, a shotgun blast echoes outside the elevator. Startled, Claudio calls out, asking who's there. A police officer named Marcello answers, revealing himself as the one who fired the shotgun. He shoots the zombie again as it tries to rise and attack him. Marcello attempts to open the stuck elevator door but is unsuccessful. Instead, he hands Claudio a walkie-talkie and a pistol, then Claudio instructing him to follow directions to reach the upper floor, where the generator can be activated to open the elevator. Marcello then begins his arduous journey upstairs, reporting the obstacles blocking his way. Claudio, doing his best to remain calm, listens as Marcello describes reaching the 9th floor, where blood is scattered everywhere. Shortly after, Marcello makes it to the control room and starts working on restoring power to the elevator. When the lights flicker back on, Claudio sees something blocking the elevator door. Suddenly, a zombie lunges at him. Panicked, Claudio fires his gun, missing the first shot, but eventually hitting the target. The zombie falls, but Claudio is left in a state of shock, guilt consuming him for killing what were once his colleagues. Marcello's voice crackles through the walkie-talkie, urging Claudio to stay focused, reminding him that these are no longer humans, but infected beings. Without warning, Claudio loses contact with Marcello. Alone in the elevator, he takes out his phone and stares at a photo of his wife. A noise outside the elevator draws his attention. Other survivors are out there fleeing from zombies, but in their desperate escape, they leave Claudio behind, trapped and helpless. As the day turns to night, Claudio, overcome by despair, picks up the gun, contemplating suicide. He hesitates, battling his own fear, just as a loud bang shakes the elevator. Marcello, injured but alive, bangs on the elevator roof. Claudio quickly uses the metal bar to open the hatch, allowing Marcello to climb down into the elevator. Marcello, clearly bitten, shoots the zombies outside before collapsing in the corner. The two share a cigarette, a brief moment of calm amid the chaos. Claudio, still trying to make sense of the nightmare, asks Marcello why this virus outbreak happened. Marcello speculates, suggesting it might have originated from animals or possibly been created in a laboratory. He shares his doubts, but reveals that his team was sent out earlier in the morning, and none of his colleagues have answered their phones since. Marcello then hands Claudio a photo of his wife, telling him that she was taken to a safer bunker. As the situation grows more dire, Claudio confesses to Marcello that he's not a good person, haunted by his past infidelities. Marcello, clearly deteriorating, begins coughing up blood, his wound oozing pus. He tells Claudio that he's tired, instructing him to shoot twice when it's time for him to sleep. Claudio, horrified by the request, refuses, but Marcello's condition worsens rapidly, and he eventually turns into a zombie, attacking Claudio. In the struggle that follows, Claudio is forced to shoot Marcello, the gunfire attracting more zombies outside the elevator. Claudio, now consumed by fear and guilt, fends off the approaching zombies. But in the chaos, he slips and loses consciousness. When Claudio finally comes to, he hears his phone ringing. Weakly, he answers, and it's his wife, her voice bringing a brief moment of relief. She tells him that the military has rescued her, but before she can say more, Claudio's phone battery dies. Now more determined than ever to escape, Claudio uses the metal bar to remove the object blocking the elevator door. With Marcello's body as a stepping stone, he manages to open the door and steps out into the office, which is now a graveyard of bodies. As he navigates through the eerie silence, he steps on a crawling zombie and makes his way toward the city streets. The streets are disturbingly quiet, with corpses strewn everywhere. Out of nowhere, another zombie attacks, but before it can reach him, a military sniper takes it down. Desperate, Claudio signals for help, and as he watches the smoke rising in the distance, and the film ends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.